Hi, I'm Beverly. Welcome to Your Personal Economy. Today, I am going to go over the top 5 financial mistakes that people make in their 20s. And if you could avoid making these mistakes, you are going to put yourself on the road to financial independence much faster than most people do. Now, one reason why I remember so clearly every mistake I made in my 20s is because I wrote a book about it. Okay. I wrote about all the credit mistakes I made when I was in my 20s, and it really set me back. And I don't want you to make the same mistakes. So, we're going to go over the top 5 mistakes, and I'm going to start with one I know really well: credit cards. If you can get through your 20s without getting into credit card debt, you are going to be so far ahead on your journey to financial independence. Trust me on this. When I first got out of college, I got 7 credit cards. They kept sending me offers, and I kept saying, okay. And then I ran up balances on all these cards and couldn't pay off the balances and just got stuck in minimum payment hell. That's not a good place to be. My advice is get a credit card, use it responsibly, and that means never carrying a balance. Once you carry a balance, it becomes your new normal. That's how it happened to me. It was just gradual. And you're paying compound interest on that balance. So it grows and grows and gets bigger so fast. So don't carry a balance. Understand your credit card terms, what the interest rate is. The average interest rate now is around 24, 25%. That is extremely high. So when you're talking about compound interest on a balance, you're going to pay more than you ever intended to pay for those purchases if you don't pay it off each month. So have a budget, track your expenses, and enjoy credit card rewards, but don't carry a balance. Don't get into debt. If I had had an emergency fund, things might have gone a little better for me, but I didn't. So next, I will talk about how to have an emergency fund and why it's so important. A recent Bankrate survey showed that 59% of Americans are uncomfortable with the amount they have in their emergency savings account. And 27% say they have no savings at all for emergencies. That really is one of the biggest financial mistakes people can make in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and beyond. As long as you have an emergency fund, you can handle something out of the ordinary. Okay. Life is awful messy, and it pays to have a backup plan for when things just go wrong. One thing you could do is focus on building a 1 month emergency fund to start. And I don't care how a little amount you can put in it weekly, do that. Make a commitment and do that. And when you get a good amount, put it into a high yield savings account. They get better interest rates. You're going to get a better yield on your savings that you have. So keep that in mind and make it a priority. When you don't have a savings account where you can cover some expenses that pop up, it's a very stressful way to live. I know, because in my 20s, I had no emergency fund. Of course, I didn't. I wish I had. I would have come out of that decade much better. So think about emergency funds and have one. All right. Next, I'm going to talk about how having an emergency fund can actually lead to you being able to make investments and start working towards your financial future, towards financial independence. I know it's hard to think about the future when you're in your 20s, but if you could start thinking about making investments, it would be great for your financial future, because the longer you have investments, good investments, the money is going to grow faster and faster due to compound interest. With investments, it's your friend, but with credit card debt, it's evil. Don't go there, but do start investing. And you can open investment accounts if you're lucky enough to work for a company that offers a 401k. Oh, especially if they match. Don't pass that up. That's free money. Be sure you sign up for that and be very committed to getting that and getting that match, because that really adds up quickly. But even if it's just an IRA, or maybe you're just starting with a high yield savings account and working your way up to investing, start thinking about it. Even if you don't think you have the money, you can actually start investing with just $50 a month. So do a little bit of research and find out what works for you for your salary level at this time. And remember, you're going to start making more money, and then you'll have more money to invest. So everything you can learn about it right now is good for you. Next, I'm going to take a look at why you should not buy a new car in your 20s. One of the things that keeps people from building an emergency fund or getting started with investments is having a high car payment. According to Experian, the average car payment is around $730. Can you believe that? And even for a used car, the average is around 500, 525. That's just so high as well. So think about your budget and really determine how much you can afford to spend on a car. Now, I know when you're in your 20s, you probably don't have enough money to pay cash for a car. So one thing to do to keep your payments lower, to save for a down payment, but also keep your credit score as high as you can. And once you get it up over 720, especially around 760, you're going to qualify for the lowest interest rates on loans. And then you can shop around for your loan as well. So work on keeping your credit score up, and also make a smart decision about what you can afford and still be able to have emergency savings and to be able to invest in your future. And I know that's hard to do, but you also want to have enough money to take a vacation also, and to have some fun. Everybody deserves that. Well, they don't deserve too much fun, but you know what I mean. You want to be able to get a latte when you want. You want to be able to take trips with your family or friends. So, be sure that that car payment doesn't derail your financial future. And speaking of financial future, there is something I wish I had done in my 20s that I didn't do because I had imposter syndrome. When I was in my 20s, I had a bad case of imposter syndrome. I was very insecure, and really never occurred to me to look outside in my industry. And I was a CPA for an oil company at the time. It never occurred to me to look and compare my market value. And I had gotten regular promotions and thought I was doing okay. But if I'd really valued my worth, I would have asked for a raise. I did at one point, and this is interestingly, my credit card debt led me to ask for a raise. And when they wouldn't give it to me, I started looking for a job outside the company. And yeah, I was scared. Like I said, I had imposter syndrome. And so I didn't have a lot of confidence at the time. But I got hired by a huge telecommunications company and got a 30% increase in salary right off the bat. My advice when you're in your 20s, I don't care if you feel insecure or whether you feel very overconfident, be sure you keep tabs on what your worth is for what you do for a living. You can look at industry surveys, and do remember to check for your industry, because it's different across the board. Different levels of education matter in some companies it doesn't. So you need to look specifically at surveys that analyze the type of work you do and what the salaries are. Network with friends who have similar jobs, find out what the going rates are. Check with recruiters. If you have a feeling you're underpaid, you probably are. So check with the recruiter, but do get your worth. If you can start being that confident and self empowered when you're in your 20s, it's really going to bode well for your 30s, because you go into your 30s making more money. And it's very difficult to start from a low point at the end of your 20s and then get what you're absolutely worth by the end of your 30s. So just keep that in mind. Ask for what you're worth, and that might be raises or even getting another job. But if you're having trouble making ends meet, I urge you to take a look at that and take action if you think it's necessary. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. We talked about 5 financial mistakes to avoid in your 20s. If you have any comments about this episode or any questions, please leave me a comment. I do respond, and I'd love to hear from you. If you're enjoying my podcast, please subscribe here on YouTube. And I look forward to seeing you next time.